Hello, film school students. So, I've had on my heart something we've already talked about. Oh, I'm Susan, by the way, with Mystable Entertainment, Mystible Entertainment. And had on my heart something we had already kind of talked about, but I wanted to renew your mind because it's so important. It's the practical aspects of film to keep it from being ordinary or boring, to make it more award winning. Is you keep in mind anyone talented and anything beautiful within your sphere of influence or your area. If someone weaves beautiful purses or makes beautiful necklaces or scarves, or there's a beautiful flower garden, or if someone creates wonderful food and dishes that you can put on a table, or if there's a cool guy who makes tractors or machinery, or musicians, kids choirs, beautiful soloists, anything like that, you can put into your film. They call it the B-roll. The B-roll is showing the environment around the film, or showing the city, or showing the yard, or showing the marketplace. You could have in a house, say you're going to film inside a house. You could have a lady who makes beautiful materials or necklaces or whatever be the grandma and be making her beautiful jewelry, and just show her and they say, "Hey, grandma, what you making?" Anything like that, to show her beautiful jewelry. Or you can put a beautiful scarf on a lady's outfit, or you could put a cool hat on a guy. But just things like that make texture, but as long as it still looks good in the film, still got to all kind of go together and look good, make a good frame. And so I was thinking about that practical, and then I was thinking about practically, we still have to make money, we still have to pay our bills, we still have to support our family. We always try to tithe, give a little bit of offering, at least 5 or 10%, 5% if you can't afford it, and you work up to 10%. So we have to do the practical, and we have to work, and we have to do the practical things of living in this world. Spending time with our loved ones is so important, especially as we get closer to the tribulation, as we see our world is deteriorating worse and worse in a lot of places. And this is why your films want to bring encouragement, hope, smiles, beauty, laughter, fun in a world of discouragement and a world of darkness. And you don't want to be preachy, but you can put clever little lines or drama lines or comedy lines to help bring that light into the darkness. So that's all the practical things. So that's what I've been working on. We're producing a small local film here, and I'm working with non-believers at first, and within 2 to 3 weeks of me meeting them and talking to them about, I call him non-religious Jesus. Jesus is not religious. He is spiritual. He is wonderful. He gives creative ideas. You don't have to act all straight and snobby and religious and judgmental. That's what we do sometimes. Their nose is up in the air because they're judgmental and they're looking down on everybody, or they're looking up and saying, I'm better than everyone else. No, that is not Jesus. That is sometimes church people, but that is not Jesus. So I was trying to tell them that part. Within 3 weeks, people start talking about the Lord, these non-believers. I told them prayer, not religion. So that's all the practical stuff. I'm working on a short film. I'm writing my scripts. I'm helping others plan their films. I'm planning my films. But then, this has been for years, decades in the making. And I'm not even going to tell you the subject right now because it's just too impossible to believe. But God has had the impossible dream of me making a cool, epic, adventure, science fiction, fantasy type movie. The big kind, big as possible, big as impossible to go into the movie theaters. And so I've written the script, re-edited it, changed it 12 times, learn more, research, talk to experts, talk to scientists, studied science, all these different things to go into this film. And finally, the last few months, the Lord said, okay, now is time to start developing. Well, the development stage, which is the stage of pre-production before you even get to the film, it can last for 2 weeks or 5 years. Some people have developed scripts for 10 years. So if you count me re-editing and writing and researching and re-editing again, this has been 20 years of a story then. But the Lord said now is time to get serious. And it is an impossible dream. I literally have, I think, I checked my account, $4 in my checking account because I am an older lady. I had to get divorced from my husband who is on drugs. I have a very limited income. Regardless of what people say, living in America is very expensive, and it takes up all of my income just to have my daily needs met. Now, I know how to stretch. I know how to find resources. I know how to put things together, but it's still, I have a low income. And here I am trying to come up with a multi-million-dollar movie. That's impossible. But the Lord said, start taking the steps, even if it's 3 years to take the steps before you even began filming. Start taking the steps. Well, I started taking the steps, and it's happening faster and faster. Things are starting to come together. And so you do the practical. You pay your bills. You take care of your family. You spend time on important relationships. You learn filming. You learn film school. You look for amazing little things and people and talents that you can put throughout your film to make it more interesting above and more special than other people's films. But then you also have an impossible project. And I was thinking about this and I thought, okay, who in the Bible had impossible projects? They all did. And they all were doing their basic everyday things, but then they had one impossible project they were working on. Joseph of Egypt had the impossible project that one day he would rule over his brothers, over the nation. And then when it was given to him that he would minister the food to nations around him, not just Egypt. That was an impossible project. Noah, one man, building an ark, which they say is approximately the size of 3 football fields, or maybe y'all's big soccer fields. I don't know. Impossible project, 3 stories high, one man. Moses, the impossible project, the bringing millions out of Egypt into the promised land. Because remember, in the Bible, they always counted the men in the census, but that is multiplied by 3 and 4 times for the women and children. So Moses had the impossible project of leading people out into the wilderness to the promised land out of Egypt. And the impossible project of facing down Pharaoh. Esther, the impossible project of helping the Jews and marrying a king who history makes it romantic. People make it romantic, but actually he was extremely abusive. The records show that he assaulted her. Often he was extremely abusive, and that was her impossible project, to lead the king and a nation to the Lord and to help them. We can go on and on. David, the little shepherd boy, the impossible project. So you pray and ask the Lord, and one of the key things that'll keep coming to your spirit, it'll be deep, maybe even since you were a child, a deep dream. It's impossible project. Now, the impossible project never turns out the way that you think, okay? You have a general idea, but you never expect it to go a straight road. Joseph knew he would rule, but he didn't know that he would rule over Egypt and work with the grains and the food supplies and all that he had to do. Moses knew he was going to lead the people to the promised land, but he didn't know the people were so rebellious it was going to take 40 years to do it. Okay? So their dreams of leading never turns out exactly the way that you think it will. But it will happen in a way that the Lord wants or that you can do. And so, how do you do an impossible project? One step at a time, one day at a time. So, for instance, for this epic adventure sci-fi feature-length movie that's going to cost millions of American dollars to make, working on the script. Sometimes I did it, sometimes I didn't do it for months because life got in the way, but I kept coming back to it when I could. I started taking steps. Now I've started having people a letter of intention. Means that you want to hire them after you interview them, but you're not offering the job yet. So I've started looking for people to work on this film, but I give them a letter of intention saying, I definitely want to hire you, but I'm not doing it yet, but I want you to start thinking up, for example, costume designer. Here's the characters. I want you to start thinking of costumes that you can design for them, but I can't pay you yet. The funds have not come in yet, so don't work really hard. Just come up with 1 or 2 designs, research the history, the culture, everything. So we're taking one step at a time. And as we take one step at a time, it starts getting faster and we start seeing progress. So find all the ways, the practical ways that you can do your films or pay your bills or take care of your responsibility now, but you also have an impossible project. And why does the Lord want you to have an impossible project? To show you that to man things are impossible, but to God it is possible, and it will be a testimony to the nations that God used little, supposedly maybe unimportant me. I mean, can't tell you how unimportant I am to my family because I have a rude, abusive family. But God is going to show His glory by using a common, normal, average person. In America we say, what is normal? Normal is never the same thing, blah, blah, blah. But still people know what normal is versus very abnormal. Well, I'm a normal person with a big imagination, and people think, She's not going to make no multi-million-dollar movie, but God says, Susan, I want you to take one step at a time. And even if you die trying, like in Hebrews, it says they died trying. They at least worked and tried. Okay, y'all think about this. Have a wonderful week. I love you. Bye.